Welcome to the Heart of the Equation, where analytical minds explore leadership, professional growth, and the human side of success.
This is the space for business professionals in the STEM field to reflect, grow, and redefine success on their terms.
Together, we'll dive into challenges, transformations, and stories that can help you build an authentic, purpose-driven career.
Let's get this started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Heart of the Equation. Today is Pragati, Anisa, and I, and we're going to talk about leading without authority. When you're a project manager, or when you're in a position that you have to lead and manage others, but you're not really their boss, so how would you do that? And this is what we are going to talk about today, because this is something I think everybody will need in their corporate career. So let's start, ladies. Who wants to go first?
I think it's a really, I'm taking I'm taking taking the baton and going next with it. But yeah, it's such a important topic, and also the fact that I think the three of us, including everybody who's listening to us right now, at some point in time has managed a team, or has had a goal or a project that they've worked they've worked on and felt this way, that I wish I had more authority. I wish I wouldn't feel more like helpless in this situation. And if only I could get people to, understand that we are all kind of heading towards the same mission or a goal. And yeah, I think I can think of, I don't know how many instances when this has happened to me. What do you think, Anisa?
Yeah, I think that is a very good topic, and that's the same. And nowadays in the companies, most of the teams are matrix team, right? That they're working with different skills, different functions for a certain project. And then you're a project manager or you're leading something, right? And you have that mixture of different functions, your team, and you're not their line manager. So then the good question comes, how do you motivate them, right? And how do you bring them by, and how do you make them do the proper task on time, right? That is the question that comes. Also, it is very interesting in the interviews. So if you're interviewing someone or you have been interviewing for such positions like project managers, they ask you, how do you motivate people who are not directly reporting to you?
Yeah, and that's really relevant. I think it applies to almost even like if you're in a corporate, but also, right now I run my own business, and I also work with a lot of freelancers to do what I want, and it's usually part-time. I'm also probably not their biggest clients. They have different clients. So most of the time, if you're a project management manager, or this kind of like client who needs something from people, they have other stuff to do. They have their own agenda. They have their own career goals. And then you also want to see how you fit in their life. And sometimes it could become a game of a power play. And sometimes it could actually be a very, very empowering relationship that you both really add to each other's lives. So I think this is a topic that always shows up, no matter you have your own business, or you're also, even if your title is not a project manager at work.
Of course, totally agree. And there's a very, very interesting thing that you just said when you were talking right now, Sarah, was like, how do you kind of make sure, and there's the answer to this really, complex question. How do you kind of make sure that they are motivated enough to work on your project despite their career goals? But how about, as a manager, as a leader, you align those topics together? When you align and kind of explain the big picture, people always feel that, hey, you might have a very small role to play in a project and you don't need to know the big picture. But the moment you kind of empower your team and show them the real big picture and how it could impact their own career goals, that's when I think the magic starts happening. This is what I notice a lot when managing teams.
Totally agree. Yes, it totally resonates, because this is also what's missing in a lot of situations. It's like, that big picture it helps us make meaning of what we do, and it's not only about the project, it's also about personal fulfillment, all of that. When we lose that meaning, when we kind of don't know what is our part, what are we doing in all of this, it's just not so exciting to be part of something. And in big projects, in like product launches, in big companies, sometimes that is missing. Everyone just want like, and they just want to move forward by pushing. Just send me this tomorrow. And that person is like annoyed by you. And that dynamic is just not helpful. I don't like it. Although it's also unavoidable sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
can only add the stress on the top, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's already stressful. I think some people, I mean, also I look back at myself early on, I didn't know better. And I vividly remember actually, I was every 2 years I kind of changed my job. This is like for me, 2 years is the expiry. And there was a phase I was talking to a lot of different managers about different positions, and there was a project head of a project management department. I asked him like, what are you looking for in a project manager? And he said, you have to be pushy. I'm like, what? I was, this is not fun. But this was his way of doing that. And he was very experienced. So this is really sometimes the only thing people know, and they never try anything else.
That is a very interesting vision also, right? I find two things very good approach that they have worked for me in a certain extent, right? 90%, because we cannot
Mhm.
generalize totally. One, of course, is one Pragati said, is a vision, like giving the people vision. And sometimes there's a project that there is really nothing in that for them. So I'm sure you have seen those projects. There is
Yeah.
nothing there. They need just to do that. And whatever, if they're doing or not, they are receiving the same salary. There is maybe little learning, but that should be done. That is the reality. In those situations, I found two things very helpful for me as managing a matrix team. One was gratefulness, to be grateful to them, to say thank you for each things. And it was not little things for them. It made them so happy to see that their value is appreciated.
Mm.
It was enormous things to see that what they are doing is really bringing value. And the second thing is listening to them, because in those moments that there is stress, and you go and you push them, you just put them in the fight and flight that we know well how it's gonna work, right? And they cannot do the work, they feel stressed, they feel frustrated. And just by listening to them, to have that frustration out, sometimes you can do something, sometimes you cannot. So at least be honest with them. It works so well for me. I don't know if you have been in that situation and then what you have done. Just the energy, just the dynamic has changed, and that build the trust. Okay, I'm there. It's not something that bringing you more salary or bringing me to the next level, but I'm enjoying to work in that team.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
enjoyment.
I totally agree. I can, and it's a simple thing, what you just mentioned. Everybody just sort of assume these things, but just acknowledging someone for their work, saying thank you is not everyone does that. And I think all humans, they want to be seen, they want to be appreciated, they want to be heard. And this is not happening frequently. We're just so busy, ticking all the boxes. But these simple things helps us build this connection. And sometimes that's all we can rely on. I could also remember some projects, mostly from my corporate time. They were like high diversity, low volume kind of things. And the low volume was not like people didn't care so much because the value was low. It was like, oh, come on, I'm not going to do this for 10,000 francs. Who cares,
Yeah.
everybody was interested in the millions because then you can talk about them. So it was so hard to motivate people. And all you had left at that point is that connection with that person, like that they kind of like to work with you. Then they would do it for you. This is
That's
sometimes
so
all we have, I think.
that's so true. And I mean, I resonate so much with what Anisa said. And it's such a simple thing, almost like a no-brainer, and people would be like, yeah, like that's easy. But then why is it not happening enough? That's the thing that I see. We receive this huge big thank you mail after a go live or after
Mhm.
we've won a new big engagement, which is worth millions and millions of dollars. And that's when the thank you, like one automated thank you mail or one leadership mail comes in. But what about that ongoing process when we were through it? Whether that go live happens or not, whether you win that deal or not. But an ongoing attitude of gratitude can make such a big difference to keep your teams motivated. So agree with that of how you really treat people, how you really make them feel, because that's what they remember. They will forget these tasks, they will forget the administrative and operational bits, sometimes even the strategic bits. But what they remember is how they were made to feel in a particular situation in a project with a particular boss, a manager. So
Yeah.
agree with it.
That is so true. And I think once you bring that atmosphere of thank you, appreciation, then you bring them to the safety as well, right?
Yes,
So you are
exactly.
safe. It is a safe place to work. And as we know, our nervous system, we need it, right? And then we reduce the stress. And once the stress is reduced, more dopamine, more adrenaline, nice energies, nice hormones come up, and then we have more energy. So
They
we
have
don't
more
feel
energy and they have
overwhelmed.
the confidence to speak up. They also have the
Absolutely.
confidence to speak up. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. So then
Yeah.
transparency, right? Then
Yeah. That is that topic you brought up. That's actually very important. Safe space. I think, people bring out their worst when they are threatened. A lot of that pushy behavior is like, I don't trust your agency. I don't trust you to do the job. So I keep reminding you. I keep getting on your nerve. This actually triggers a lot of people to bring their worst behavior. I think is some people actually are okay to be reminded that this is just how they are. But most of the people who have some kind of agency, they care about their, they trust themselves. They don't want to be constantly treated as a dumb person who can't make decisions. So they get really annoyed when you push them, when you just send too many emails and treat them like a child who's not doing their homework. That
Yeah,
is
it's a
not.
break of trust. It's a breach of trust. Absolutely. I mean, it's much more than like, of course, you get really annoyed and you know that this person is like this and they love micromanaging or they love being pushy. But it really affects, your entire mental makeup. Like you don't want to work with people like that. It's so annoying. It is bringing your confidence down. There's no trust that this person has established with you because of the way he or she treats you. And like I wouldn't want to go back feeling like this because there was no safe space where my ideas, my thoughts, my vision could be heard. And I just felt like, a note taker. Even if my ask was like to develop something or like be a part of something really strategic, but it was how I was made to feel at
Yeah.
times that completely it breaks that level of trust between the two people.
Yeah, but this whole topic of, of course, there is only so much one project manager or one
Yeah.
manager can do. It just shows how important it is to have safer spaces in corporations, and it has partially affected by the culture. But imagine, like I've seen so many times when you're not getting a response from a person, it's quiet, the radio silence, there is avoidance, something is happening in the background. The person does not feel safe to tell you that they weren't able to work on it for whatever reason. They don't feel safe with giving any answer because they've been treated so badly, probably, that they just decide to not communicate. And this is something that can annoy, when you're kind of in a project or something, when there is no communication, you wonder what's going on. And then you might try to push even more. Then it becomes a cycle of, one is, pushing, the other one is running away. It's
Yeah,
not moving anywhere.
it's that vicious circle and it goes
Exactly.
nowhere.
Yeah. So
you're not
that's
getting result, right?
Yeah, so this is also so important, from a long-term point of view, to create that safer spaces from the beginning, set the intentions. Like if I go to a new organization, what I would do is in the beginning just really meet with people just to get to know everyone, see they can experience my energy, just make them sure that I'm not here to annoy you or you know, we are here to work together, and they can feel safe with me. And also, I think it's important that people feel safe to make mistakes. This is, I think, one of the things that creates a lot of problems, because you're so afraid of being the messenger of the bad news.
Or to fail, or to
Yeah, to
fail.
fail. I mean,
That
mistakes happen.
fail,
Who
yeah.
hasn't made mistakes? But especially in like premium brands, I would say the perfectionism is in everything. You're expected not to fail. And when you do, you just have to be ready to
And
get
you're living in fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're always constantly living in fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in my one of the examples that comes to my mind, and this is one of the things that really, really worked for me after I joined consulting, is my approach from the beginning. So I've always been in more kind of, and consulting, you're more in client-facing roles. So you have two teams that you're always talking to. One is your internal team, which is your team that is going to deliver projects or whatever the engagement is. And then there is the external team, which is your client, who you're trying to serve because they are the ones giving you business. A lot of corporates make the mistake of building the relationship outside first. They want to be in the good books of the clients, and they kind of totally ignore their teams. They are pushy. They are, this is, if this is how you're beginning a new project or a new, taking over a new team, where, for you, the client is extremely important. You will go have coffees with them, and you'll take them out, and there'll be meetings on the golf course, and there'll be this and that, but you've completely ignored the most important aspect, the people who are actually going to deliver value to the client. That's the biggest failure, according to me. So that's a trap, right? You need to kind of balance it all. And in my, my first, I think, team that I took over in my consulting gig, that was the first thing that I did. I built a relationship with a very tightly knit team who was not happy to have this new person come as their boss. And I could have, of course, we were sitting in the client's office, and I could have always, chosen the path of making that relationship stronger with the client rather than with my team. But I think what really helped in the long run was making that relationship strong with the team and telling them that I'm one of them and we are all working towards the same goal. I think that's precious when you do that.
That's so interesting, especially that even you worked in the consultancy. I was on the other side of it. It
Yeah.
was always like the dynamic between the consultancy companies and the the client companies is also quite interesting. It could be a very, very good relationship, but you could also be like, oh, they are going to sell you a presentation for 1 million. And these guys, these are the ones who might fire us one day. And there is also a lot of that sort of background
Yeah.
conversations. And again, it's again about leading without the authority. It's a very similar dynamic, like whose word is stronger to move forward. But all of it, when I look at it, is down to simple human relationships. It's just that is the most understated thing nobody is talking about. They're so focused on the strategy and I don't know, all the charts and everything. But really, humans like to work with humans they feel safe with. Not necessarily like, but they feel safe with. They don't feel threatened. And I think that is such a basic thing that I kind of feel like, oh, we weren't thinking about those things those days. I didn't experience it, but when I see companies doing that, I feel like, oh, that's possible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think none of us were, right? We were so attached to our jobs. We were so attached to, getting that milestone accomplished or getting that project completed that sometimes even we have made those mistakes and missed the human
We are
element.
human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are human, but we all make mistakes. I think just going back to that safety, Sarah, what you said, and you, Pragati, as well, that making mistake and failures, I think that is the atmosphere of blaming, right?
Yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
Finger
most
pointing, like,
finger pointing at that is the things that brings fear to people, right?
yeah.
Fear of trying something or doing something faster, and by removing that, or addressing that things of blaming and bring appreciation, again, you can bring loads of encouragement to people to go on in such a atmosphere. Like me working in pharmaceutical, of course everything should be perfect, right? With deliver drugs to patient, it should be no error, there should be no deviation. But then the question is here, if there's a deviation, is there any good atmosphere of no blaming and transparency? Can you put your hand up to say, to speak up, it has happened, you know?
Yeah.
So that is the question of having that safe space. Again, I've seen many times that something has happened in the production and people had or not had having that safe space, speak up or they didn't, right?
Yeah.
And it made an enormous difference. They spoke up, and then we could solve the situation. We could have a corrective action for it, and they didn't speak up. And we spent months with consulting to find up like a kappa or corrective action for it. So that is how also we can save money if we want to talk about terms of money, right?
Yeah.
If we have a safe environment.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, there is only so much you can do if you're in a culture that does not encourage safety, even if when you're, in that culture and you're the one who want to bring it, you will be criticized. It's always in unhealthy dynamics, the one who wants to be different is the one who gets it, basically. But it's really like, in the corporation, at least there is this thing that you're always doing things in teams. Yes, there is at the end like one person who has more responsibility, but this is something a lot of people also forget about, that it's not one person that making mistakes. Everybody can potentially make mistakes. I don't know if I've ever met like a person who's very successful and they've always been perfect. It's just the expectation is wrong. But our approach towards mistakes and how we handle them and how we
Yeah.
support each other, I think in a team, it's important to have that conversation, like how are we going to show up when one of us has like done something like that? Or, early warning kind of system when someone makes a mistake and they're scared of talking about it. And then in the background, something really nasty is going on. That's also not helpful. But this happens all the time, just because people think like, oh my God, I'd better hide it. I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, yeah. So this was about the safety, but what else, because sometimes actually we really want people to do what we want. I think it's also a little bit of negotiation sometimes, that we have an expectation from someone, like we want something urgently. It's urgent for us, but not for them. For them, they could be okay with not even doing it. There's always this some kind of insignificant project for them, but for us it might be something important. So how do we handle those situations? I would like to hear what you think of this.
You go for it, Pragati, or shall I go?
Go for it. Go for it. I
I
was
have,
still thinking of
thank you.
incidents like these.
I have many of them. I have many because I've managed some contractors sometimes in my life, but I haven't had direct reports. And I always had big matrix team, like even up to 40 people, right? So, and what worked for me is to building that relationship that you mentioned, both you and Sarah, that relationship of they know that sometimes it's not adding value to their career, but they are enjoying to work in that project. And then the negotiation comes, right? There are always those people, 10% maybe, they don't enjoy, they're not motivated, they just come to work to get their job done, right? And that is also okay. We are different, so there is no judgment. And with that 10%, you go to the negotiation really to see, okay, we have other priorities, let's see, right? And I asked them to present. Okay, you have that, you're right. It seems that it is a lot to do. And also that recognition. I've seen many times they need that recognition. That yes, it is so difficult what you're doing. But honest recognition, it is so difficult. It is you have a lot. So let's see if we can do anything with your line manager. They prioritize sometimes. And it always work. It really always work. It took some times of negotiation, acknowledgement, and talk to the line manager. And we just changed the priorities. And it worked for me. So that is from my side.
Yeah.
Pragati.
Yeah, sometimes it's also about power play. I mean, in my situation, so let me talk about, and negotiations, of course, play a really, really important role then. I will talk a little bit about in my current role. I have a team as big as for one of the clients, 130 people. These 130 people, so this is a complete matrix structure as well. Now, these 130 people do not directly report to me, which means their appraisal and their bonuses and their performance rating is not in my hand, which means it's not their priority. Just from a power dynamic perspective also, it's not like they are kind of bound to me as their line manager to make sure they perform well because of the carrot at the end of the year, which could be a next promotion, a big bonus, equity, whatever. So these elements that we spoke about and negotiations become so, so important because you have to keep the team motivated. Of course, I mean, for me, I think people need to realize and recognize the value of feedback. And there's a lot of effort, right? So even if you're not doing the performance reviews directly, are you really focused on making sure that the people who are really performing well and are doing so much for your projects and for your teams, are they growing in the process? And growth can even mean promotions and money. It doesn't always have to be your learning, but it means money, it means promotions, it means big bonuses and things like that. And how can you really impact it? And I really go out of my way at times to make sure that the people in my team succeed and whatever that success means to them, right? All of
That's
us, we
so
are not here for
amazing.
charity. Yeah, we are not here
That's
for
so
charity.
amazing to hear that. It is
Yeah,
so
not many people do
important.
that. I like that you.
But this is one of the things actually I learned from my husband, honestly. He also works in a corporate setting. And I have seen managers like him in my life that kind of inspired me to do that. And we both are kind of very aligned on that value that we spend a lot of time making sure that we are playing a part in the success of the people who worked with us. We
Of
don't let
others.
that go. One is the kind words, and one is really kind of living up that, making sure you're passing the feedback, making sure whatever you can do for their, growth is possible in an organization. And not many people do that, like you said.
Yeah, yeah,
That's so
yeah,
important. That's so
yeah,
important. And maybe just I add something small to what you said, Pragati. Now we have LinkedIn. So even now that you are hearing and listening to us and you have been working with someone and you didn't do the feedback, now it's a time to
Yes.
just take the time. It takes like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and write a feedback on LinkedIn. I have heard from many recruiters that when they want to hire, they go actually and see the feedback on LinkedIn. So write
Wow,
the
so
feedback
powerful, so
on
simple,
LinkedIn
right? So
now.
simple. So simple and yet so powerful. I love that.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, take that action now to whoever is
yeah.
listening to
It,
us.
it's actually quite, I mean, this was not something, it also depends. Some organization, people are not into social media and they forget about it. I was in a place like that, and our network was the internal, this
But
big
you have so many
company.
internal channels. Yeah, I
Yes,
love
yeah.
that.
Right.
Because also, what you just shared, Pragati, we can just say thank yous to someone to just, transactional thing to just get over it. Or we can also say, I am grateful for the way you handled this and be very specific. And then people feel like, oh, she really saw me. She really cared. She
Yes.
remembered this. This is, I think, what's also missing because a lot of people are actually not paying attention. They're just like, yeah, job done.
Job
But
done and one big thank you mail to the entire
yeah,
team, and that's it. And that
yeah, so
doesn't
these
motivate anybody.
details, these personal details, remembering like, oh, you always like that. This is, uh, and then of course there's also something else. I think in corporate, I mean everywhere, being reliable
Oh,
is
wow.
is
Yes.
also something that is understated. Like there are people you just don't know, will you get an answer from them or not? Like, this kind of people who you just don't know, are they available or not? But then there is this other type that even when they are busy, they could say like, I'm busy right now, but I saw this, I will. I think that's also important to give that sense to people that you are available for me. I'm also available for you when I'm in a similar situation. I'm not here just to take it from you. But
Right.
if you also need me one day and you know what you need from me is not as significant, I'm also there for you. So there is like two-sided, I think.
So true.
Right.
And it's a value, right? It's a value that you bring to the table, and do not underestimate it. If people call you reliable, it's your superpower.
Yeah.
Honestly, in today's world, this is your superpower.
It's a
If
Yeah.
you are
quality.
reliable, you are already being looked at like a role model.
Yeah.
This is something that people will always remember you by.
Yes,
So
especially in work situation. But really also to wrap up, I kind of think how we show up in this kind of situations is how we lead, and everyone has their own leadership style. So someone else might have the exact conversation we had and say, no, I would just push and go on their nerves so they do it for me. This is my style of leadership. Someone might also say that, and that's okay for them. I think for us sitting here, we are all into people-oriented, human-oriented leadership. For me, it's always like seeing people. The compassion, that's very important, even in situations that actually the other person wants to annoy you. That is my compass. And I think everyone needs their own compass in this kind of situations when the boundaries are not clear, when the rules are not clear, and you're actually there to kind of design them for yourself.
Awesome. I love it. I think we got our conclusive kind of statement there, Sarah.
we all agree upon that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We all love
Generosity,
people.
boundaries at the same time. Generosity with boundaries. I think it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, all the things that we just spoke about, which
Yeah.
so much kind of aligns with our whole reason of why we are doing this podcast.
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
human side of everything. And the moment you tap into that, you will realize that you will really start enjoying some things which right now are not kind of sounding or you're not feeling it at the moment. But the moment you kind of tap into these human elements at your workplace with your people, you will already start seeing the benefits. I'm sure of
So true. So true.
Yeah, it's totally. Yes. Humans are the heart of the equation. That's what we believe in. That's why we're doing this. And we are, yeah, I think, yeah, we're kind of reaching the end of our conversation. So, yes, thank you to both of you for sharing your insights. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or shall we say goodbye to our listeners?
Shall we inform our listeners that is the end of our first season?
Yes, yes, of course.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can't believe this, but this is our 10th episode.
Yes, yes,
Right.
unbelievable. Yeah, so of course it's not the end of our work. We just want to start a new chapter. This is like our 10th episode, and we have some exciting stuff coming up for the next season of The Heart of the Equation. We are going to invite some experts and ask these questions from them, and yeah, it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, so very exciting season 2 coming up, which is already in the planning. If you would like to come as a guest on our podcast, there's a form. You will find it in the show notes. You will find it where our podcast page is, and please apply. We have a really good a set of guests that are going to be there on season 2, which is going to make it even more juicier. So we can't wait. We can't wait to get on that journey. But thanks to everyone who supported us over the last couple of months
Months.
couple of months.
It means a lot. The fact that some people are actually listening to this conversation, when I see like who is downloading and the numbers shows, like, gosh, these strangers care about us. This is so
Yeah.
much fun. So we are so grateful. It means a lot to us. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
and see you in
much.
season 2.
Yes,
See you
see you
soon.
soon.
Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to The Heart of the Equation. If this episode has sparked something for you, we'd love to hear about it.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on LinkedIn or Instagram to continue the conversation.
And if you know someone who is navigating their next career step, share this episode with them. It could be exactly what they need.
We see you next time as we explore more about leading with purpose, resilience, and authenticity.
Let's keep growing together.